Imagine you spend years chasing a dream. Then one day you give it all up, not because you failed, but because you got tired. You told yourself it was too hard, too risky, too unrealistic. And then somewhere, somehow, a small voice inside you whispers, "What if you hadn't stopped?" That feeling, that quiet, aching question, is exactly what Paulo Coelho taps into in The Alchemist. And the reason this book, first published back in 1988, still sells millions of copies every single year in 2026 is not because it tells you something new. It's because it reminds you of something you already know but keep forgetting. Today, we're going to go deep into the philosophy of personal legend, what it really means, why it's so hard to follow, and what the desert, the stars, and a simple shepherd boy from Andalusia can teach you about the life you're quietly dreaming of. There's a line early in the book that should stop you in your tracks. Coelho writes, "It's the possibility of having a dream come true that makes life interesting, not the dream itself, the possibility." Think about that for a second. The book isn't promising you success. It's asking you to notice how alive you feel when you believe something beautiful might still be possible. Think about it. Does this remind you of anything in your own life? Maybe a project you started with fire in your chest, or a path you almost took before practicality whispered in your ear? That feeling of aliveness, that electricity, the alchemist suggests it's not random, it's a signal. It's the universe, or the soul of the world, as Coelho calls it, speaking directly to you. The first major idea the book explores is the concept of personal legend itself. In the story, a personal legend is what you've always wanted to accomplish, the thing you knew you were meant to do before the world started teaching you to be afraid. The shepherd boy, Santiago, knows from early on that he wants to travel, to see the world, to discover treasure. But what's fascinating is that he almost gives it up, not once, several times. He finds comfort, he finds love, he finds routine, and every single time there's a temptation to say, "This is enough, I'll stay here." The book shows this not as weakness, but as something deeply, painfully human. The world is full of people who found a comfortable enough life and parked there. And the book never judges them. It just asks, is comfortable the same as alive? Think about it. Does this remind you of anything in your own life? The second quietly radical idea is what Coelho calls the language of the world. Santiago, as he travels through the desert, begins to notice patterns in the wind, in the behavior of hawks, in the silence between moments. He learns to read signs, not in a mystical, fortune-telling way, but in the sense that attention itself becomes a practice. He starts paying attention, really paying attention. And there's something quietly radical about that idea in 2026, when most of us are scrolling through notifications and half living our actual days. The book places a quote near the center of everything. "When you want something, all the universe conspires in helping you to achieve it." This line gets quoted everywhere, sometimes dismissed as wishful thinking, but look at what it actually means psychologically. When you commit to something fully, when you stop hedging, stop keeping one foot out the door, your perception changes. You start noticing opportunities you would have walked past before. You start making different choices. The universe doesn't literally rearrange itself, but you do, and that might be the same thing. Think about it. Does this remind you of anything in your own life? The third thread running through the book is fear, and the alchemist is brutally honest about it. Santiago is afraid, constantly.
He loses his money. He works for a crystal merchant for almost 2 years. He nearly abandons the whole journey. And here's what the book shows so clearly. The fear never goes away. The alchemist himself, the wisest character in the story, doesn't promise Santiago that the path will be easy or safe. He says something far more interesting. He says that the fear of suffering is worse than the suffering itself, that the heart will always be troubled, and that the secret is to listen to it anyway. This is not toxic positivity. This is not just believe and everything works out. This is a much harder, more honest message. You will be afraid, and you will have to move anyway. The book shows the internal alchemy of a person who keeps choosing courage over comfort, not because it feels good, but because the alternative, a life not fully lived, feels worse. Think about it. Does this remind you of anything in your own life? The fourth idea is one that often gets overlooked, and it might be the most important. The Alchemist is a story about listening to your own heart, not following a guru, not trusting a system, not waiting for permission from the world. Santiago talks to his heart directly, like a conversation between two people. And his heart admits something remarkable. It says it is afraid of dreams because it might not get them, and if it does get them, it might lose them. The heart doesn't pretend to be brave. What changes is Santiago's relationship to that fear. He learns to trust the heart, not because it's fearless, but because it's honest. In a world full of noise, social comparison, algorithmic pressure, the endless stream of other people's highlight reels, this idea of returning to your own quiet internal compass feels almost revolutionary. Coelho writes, "Tell your heart that the fear of suffering is worse than the suffering itself." It's one of the most gentle and serious things the book says. Think about it. Does this remind you of anything in your own life? And then there's the ending. Without giving too much away for those who haven't read it, though you've certainly heard the basics by now, what Santiago finds at the end of his journey reframes everything that came before. The treasure was never just the treasure. The journey was the transformation. The person who left the Andalusian fields and the person who returns are completely different, not because of what he found, but because of what he became in the searching. There's an Uzbek proverb that says, "Yolda yurgen yolni tapadi." He who walks the road finds the road. Not he who thinks about it, not he who plans it perfectly, he who actually walks. The Alchemist, at its heart, is a book about walking, about showing up for your own story, about trusting that the alchemy, the real transformation, doesn't happen at the destination. It happens in the desert, in the fear, in the moment you almost gave up and didn't. In 2026, the question Personal Legend asks is the same question it always asked. Not are you successful, but are you moving toward what is most deeply yours? Those are very different questions. Books aren't just stories, they're mirrors that help us understand ourselves better. Comment below, which book should we dive into next? If you enjoyed this, like and subscribe for more thoughtful book analysis. This video uses AI-generated audio and visuals for educational purposes only. This is just one reader's personal thoughts and interpretations.